Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Impress with an update on the 2020 World Championship cycle. We'll get to these two gentlemen, David Navara and Alexander Grischuk, in a minute. But first, let's get the latest update on finding out who will be challenging Magnus Carlsen for the world title in 2020. In early 2020, the Candidates Tournament will be held, a double round robin between 8 players. 5 of those 8 are known now. The loser of the 2018 World Championship match, Fabiano Caruana, will be there. The top 2 finishers of the FIDE Grand Prix 2019, that is what this video is about, that's why I put it in red there. The 2 finalists of the Chess World Cup, held in September 2019. Teimour Radjabov won the World Cup and Ding Liren was the finalist. They both qualified for the Candidates Tournament. The top finisher in the FIDE Grand Swiss Tournament held in the Isle of Man in October, Wang Hao, was the winner and qualifies. 1 player will qualify by rating. It's almost certain that that will be Anish Giri from the Netherlands. And then 1 wildcard selected by the organizer. It's too early to say who that might be. So as said, 2 players will qualify through the Grand Prix series, which consists of 4 events held in Moscow in Russia, Riga, Latvia, Hamburg, Germany, and Tel Aviv in Israel is the last event in December 2019. As I'm recording this video, November 2019, the Hamburg event has just finished. And this is the bracket of that Hamburg tournament, won by Alexander Grischuk, you see there in the final against Jan Krzysztof Duda from Poland. In the first round, the first seed Maxime Vachier-Lagrave beat Wei Yi. Topalov surprisingly beat Nakamura. Navara beat Vichigov. Wojtasek lost to Grischuk. Daniel Dubov beat Teimour Radjabov, the winner of the World Cup. Svidler beat Hare Krishna. Yu Yangyi beat Yakovenko. And Duda surprisingly beat Jan Nepomniachtchi in the classical games. In the quarterfinals, Vachier-Lagrave won again against Topalov. Grischuk beat Navara. Dubov beat Svidler. And Duda beat Yu. In the semifinals, Alexander Grischuk caused an upset by beating the first seed Maxime Vachier-Lagrave in the classical games, while Duda beat Dubov in a tiebreak. In the final, Grischuk beat Duda, also in a tiebreak. That leads to these standings after 3 events in the FIDE Grand Prix. Alexander Grischuk got 10 points for his win in Hamburg and is now on 20 points, almost certain to qualify. Vachier-Lagrave is in 2nd place, Mamedyarov in 3rd, Nepomniachtchi in 4th, and you can see the rest of the top 10 there. The players play in 3 of the 4 events, so Grischuk will not play in Jerusalem. You can see that that section is grayed out. Vachier-Lagrave, Mamedyarov and Nepomniachtchi will all play in Jerusalem, and it will be very exciting to see who comes in the top 2. You can see Wojtasek and So will also play in Jerusalem, but they only have a theoretical chance. They need to win the tournament, and Vachier-Lagrave, Mamedyarov and Nepomniachtchi will all need to lose in the first round. It promises to be a very exciting event in Israel in December. But back to the Hamburg event. The game I will show you is between David Navara and Alexander Grischuk. We just saw that Grischuk beat Navara in the 2nd round. Let's have a look at the 2nd game of their mini-match. Round 2, Game 2, played on the 9th of November 2019. White David Navara, black Alexander Grischuk. The first game had ended in a draw, after 39 moves by a perpetual check in a queen endgame. And in this 2nd game, Navara opened with d4. If this game was to be decided, then the winner would go through to the semi-finals. If the game ended in a draw, a tiebreak would be played on the next day. Knight f6 by Grischuk, c4, e6, knight f3, d5, and knight c3. Here Grischuk thought for a few minutes. The commentator Yevgeny Miroshnichenko thought that Grischuk had probably expected a Catalan with g3 and was surprised by Navara's move knight c3. In this video I make use of the comments from Grandmaster Miroshnichenko in a live broadcast. In the end, Grischuk decided on bishop b4, the Ragozin variation. It's quite similar to the Nimzo Indian, with the moves knight f3 and d5 included already. Queen a4 check from white. Did black blunder a piece? It's check and the bishop is hanging. No, he didn't. Knight c6 has to be played, that's the only move. It shields the check and protects the bishop. As Mirosnichenko explained, in the 1930s, when the Ragozin variation was played for the first time, people thought that this was not a playable opening for black, as the knight is misplaced on c6. Black wants to play up his c-pawn, and now the knight is in the way. But over time, insights have changed, and this is a very playable opening for black. e3 from Navara, castling from Grischuk, unpinning the knight, and the queen back to c2, saying to black, I force you to put your knight on c6, and that is misplaced there, and now I'm going to improve my queen. Rook e8, black's plan is to push the e-pawn, bishop d2, and bishop f8, saying to white that the bishop has nothing to do on b4, and the other point is that bishop d3 is now not a great move because of knight b4, winning the bishop pair. Queen has to go, and then black wins the bishop pair. And that's why after bishop f8, Navara chose a3 to keep the knight out of b4. So now that he can play bishop d3. e5 as planned. That is black's break move, and now we see a lot of material come off the board. 8 captures in the next 9 moves. D takes e5, knight takes. Navara took on d5. Knight takes f3, check in between, g takes, knight takes back on d5, bishop d3, and the knight on c3 was also taken. Bishop takes, and black has to be careful here. Both white bishops are pointing at the black king, and white has the half-open g file as well. He will castle queenside and then can start an attack against black's king. And queen h4 is an important move to stop that attack, or at least delay it for a while. It's protecting h7, that pawn was hanging. It was attacked by both the bishop and the queen. So queen h4 protects it a second time. And also the queen is now in the way of an h2, h4 push from white. And it's not so easy to expel the queen from h4. So good move from Grischuk. Castling queenside by Navara as planned. g6. Bishop e4 and bishop g7. And as Mirosnichenko explained, if the dark squared bishops are traded, black is not that worried anymore about the kingside attack. Queen a4, nice move from Navara. Attacking the rook on e8 and also bringing a tactic in the position. The natural move c6 to deal with the attack on the rook is not possible because of bishop takes c6. Attacking the unprotected queen on h4. And if the queen is taken, then the bishop takes and white has won a pawn in the process. So queen a4 is a tricky move. In the live broadcast, rook f8 was looked at, but Grischuk decided on queen e7 to protect the rook. Navara took on g7, king takes, and now plays h4, which is now possible now that the queen is no longer there. That's a drawback of queen e7. White will start attacking black's king. Queen c5 check. King b1 and bishop f5. Very nice move. The bishop on e4 is now pinned, so cannot take the black pawn on b7. Black has been able to simplify the position, which is to his advantage. With less pieces on the board, the kingside attack is not as strong. Navara goes for it anyway. h5. And now a very nice move from Grischuk, which shows that h5 was not a very good move. b7, b5 was found by Grischuk, hitting the queen. And as we'll see, this wins a pawn for black. If you go to d4, then there is queen takes, rook takes, and a nice move c5, forcing the rook off the 4th rank. Rook d5, for example, and then black wins a pawn. Rook takes, very nice move. If you take back, then bishop takes will fork both rooks. And if you take the bishop, which is the best move, then g takes, f takes with an extra pawn for black in a rook endgame. Good winning chances. This pawn on h5 is quite weak. So after b5, Navara saw that queen d4 does not really work, and he found queen a6 with the idea of h6 and then queen f6, after which the black king is not feeling happy on the back rank. Nice move, queen a6. But Grischuk saw that things were okay for him, that he could go for the combination that would win him a pawn. Rook takes e4. Nice tactic. Navara played h6 check. And now king f8 is an important move and not to g8. Very nice move. Great calculation from Alexander Grischuk. F takes e4. Bishop takes e4 check. Winning the material back. The exchange that he has sacrificed on e4. King a1. And the bishop takes on h1. And here really Navara should have taken the bad endgame with the rook takes h1. And then queen b6 is the move for black. Trading the queens with excellent winning chances in the rook endgame, being a pawn up. Navara did not want to play that and he decided to sacrifice a piece. He played queen f6. It's very good that the king was on f8 and not on g8, because then there will be a mate threat with queen g7. And Grischuk had found the best move in the position again. Bishop c6 is the move here. That's the right square for the bishop. It's keeping the rook on a8 protected, which is important. It's stopping rook d7, which will be a strong move for white. And it's covering the e8 square to stop black being checkmated on the back rank. A multi-purpose move, bishop c6. Beautiful move. So if white plays rook d8 check here, then rook takes, queen takes, and that would be checkmate. If not, for bishop e8, the bishop can be interposed. And black is winning with his extra piece. If you give a check on h8, then there is king e7. You can take the h7 pawn, hoping for counterplay with that h pawn, which is almost at the queening square. But then there is queen e5, and the white queen is trapped. The h pawn will not go anywhere. Black is also winning here. Navara thought for a long time and came up with e3, e4. That pawn cannot be taken, because then rook d8 check will lead to checkmate on the next move. This is checkmate. The bishop has to stay on c6. Grischuk found b5, b4, trying to open white's king somewhat. A takes b4 and queen b5. And now black has threats. He's threatening queen a4 with the double attack, winning the rook. Another threat is queen a6 check. And then after king b1 that would be bishop takes e4. That would be check. And at the same time white's queen, which is unprotected on f6, would be attacked. And the white queen would be lost. Nice move, queen b5. Of course black could not take on b4. First, the bishop would be unprotected. But also, instead of taking the bishop, there's a perpetual check in the position. Queen h8 check. King e7. Queen e5 check. The black queen is no longer covering that square. King f8 and queen h8 check. And this game will end in a draw. And the match will go into a tiebreak. So queen b5 was the move by Grischuk. Very nice move. White has to deal with those threats from black. And Navara played b3. Taking queen a4 out of the position. And after queen a6, the king can go to b2. So bishop takes e4, that variation we just saw, doesn't work because it would not be check with the king on b2. Grischuk played a5, trying to get the rook into the action as well. The rook on a8 wants to take part in the game. All pieces want to be at the party. King b2, a takes b4, opening the file for the rook. Rook d2. White is desperately trying to cover the squares around his king. Queen c5 and rook d3. Navara is fighting for his life, trying to keep his king safe. Now queen c3, which was a threat, is no longer possible with the rook on d3. Here bishop takes e4 is still not possible because of that mate in 2 that we already saw, that is still there. And instead of that, queen a5 is the strongest move in the position, found by Grandmaster Mirosnichenko in the live broadcast without the help of an engine. Grischuk did not see it, or he might have seen it, but found another way to win. Queen a5 is a very nice move. It keeps an eye on the e5 square, so there's no perpetual. And after queen takes c6, it is white who will get checkmated with queen a1 check, king c2, and this is checkmate. Grischuk, as said, did not see it or did not think it was the best move. He found rook e8, and it also wins for black. After all, he is a piece up. He just has to make sure he does not get checkmated by white's heavy pieces. Navara played on. Grischuk only had 5 minutes on the clock, and it's still tricky. Queen c7 check. King e7 and rook f3. Yes, white is attacking, and the black king is vulnerable. In a live broadcast, rook f8 was considered a very passive square for the rook. But it also still wins for black. Queen f6 check. King e8 and rook d3. Here Miroshnichenko was worried about black. There's a checkmate threat on d8. And in fact, bishop d7 is the only move. It still wins for black, but it's not easy. His rook is very passive. And white's pieces are very dangerously positioned towards the king on e8. After rook f3, Grischuk did not play the passive rook f8 move. He simply played the king to d8, giving up the f-pawn. Rook takes f7 and bishop takes e4. That move is now possible. It's protecting the c7 pawn. And white only has one more check. Queen f6 check by Navara, and king c8 was the last move of the game. There are no more checks. Black is a piece up. And not only that, the white king is also in a mating net. There's a threat of queen c2 check, followed by queen b1 checkmate. White has no more counterplay, and Navara resigned, which meant that Alexander Grischuk went on to the semi-finals. And as I showed you at the start of the video, he went on to win the Hamburg event and has now the lead in the Grand Prix and has great chances for qualification. But he will not play in the last event, so he'll have to look at the action from the comfort of his home. And this is the position in our game, Rick against the Chess to Impress viewers. I've just played knight d2 to c4 on the 21st move, and it is your turn. What would you play in this position? You can take part in this game by putting your move, Black's 21st move, in the comment section underneath this video. By doing so, you will not only be part of this exciting game, it's a very complex, rich position, but also you will be in the raffle. At the end of this game, I will raffle a chess book amongst the viewers who have taken part in this game. I'm looking forward to seeing your move in the comment section. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the Chess to Impress channel and please leave a comment. If you like the video, if you like this series, I have a playlist on the World Championship 2020, which you can find in the description box underneath this video. If you like it, it would be great if you could share it on social media by clicking the share button on YouTube. You can find me on Instagram, on Twitter and on Facebook. This is Rick for Chess to Impress. Thank you for watching.